So I'm talking about all these synchronicities that are just like flowing through me. I'm in the field of I'm in the field of miracles. And one of the biggest synchronicities, I had like just this thread of synchronicities that just all coalesced in last night. So after the interview with Yvette Miller, where Yvette and I were speaking about this needing to get to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I got a call that night from Alan Lazowski. And Alan Lazowski is the CEO of Laz Parking. And interestingly enough, Alan Lazowski, he is the last conscious leadership program that I did for his senior leadership team in Connecticut as an evolution of the work that I had done the year before on leading well from within conscious leadership. Now I came back and I was leveraging the exchange approach. Which is what I'm set up to do right now. And you've seen, the videos from the exchange community earlier in this sequence. And so I am set up to do a 3-day workshop on December 2nd through the 4th on awakening conscious leadership. And even the title, Awakening Conscious Leadership, usually I call it Catalyzing Conscious Leadership, but we titled it Awakening Conscious Leadership, and here I am having my spiritual awakening. So even that's a synchronicity. And so, so we're threading all this together, and Yvette and I have this moment yesterday where we actually, and I had spoken about, on the day 14 video in the series with Amanda Rooker, I'd shared the vision. For, how we're building a coalitions, and I really said, Joe and Kamala Harris, I want to support their work and celebrate their work at this moment in time of the next phase of the battle is they're not fighting for the soul of America. Now we're fighting to heal the soul of America. That's the next phase. And fighting is not the right metaphor. It's bringing together a coalition of. It's not about fighting. It's bringing together a coalition of healing organizations in service of healing the soul of our nation and our planet at this incredible moment of need. And so Alan calls me, and I remember the last deep dive that I went to in the exchange community, and John Berghoff, who's kind of one of the greatest facilitators in the world. I mean, really, he's the master facilitator. He was leading us through in this deep dive. He asked, what is your biggest, boldest plan for your future? And my answer, people possibly thought I was delusional at the time. I said, I want to join with, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris in their efforts to heal the soul of the nation. I said that. This was a couple of months ago, before my diagnosis. And then actually some people reached out and said, we've got connection to the campaign. And actually I had a couple of weekends that I wanted to do, to shoot a video. I wanted to send, if you listen to Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, I wanted to send you a video and a package, but there was some resistance. I couldn't figure it out. It just didn't feel right. And then I felt, kind of like somewhat like an imposter. Like I just felt like it. But now looking back, it's just that the time wasn't right. It's just that the time wasn't right for this. But after I filmed the video with Yvette Miller, who I just love. God, she is amazing. Oh my God, Yvette, I love you so much, sister. I just love you so much, sister. After we shot and created that magic together, there was a magical moment which I truly believe was about, we have created healing in our relationship. A white South African with, a black, powerful American, a black woman and a white South African coming to a place of healing, showing the possibility of what healing could look like. And feeling the magic of the moment, that experience that we had yesterday together that was an energetic flow. That was God flowing through both of us to actually create a model of healing, that I hope will inspire others to come together in healing, in rippling out. I hope that video goes viral. I hope that video goes viral because it needs to be seen to inspire a template for what this healing could look like. Even the closing meditation kind of flowed through. That closing meditation just came through from beyond. That came through from beyond. So in the context of that same day, Alan Lazowski could have called me on any other day. But he called me that night. And Al, when I was there, Al is super connected. He's like one of the top businessmen, in Connecticut. So he knows everybody. And imagine, I actually, as an anecdote, before I went up and I did my when I did it was a 4-hour workshop, the last live workshop I did before COVID. And interestingly enough, that workshop, again, that was a serendipity. We were talking about, it was about how do we stay healthy and safe? That was before COVID hit. And even that was like previewed what was coming. So Alice, and in that workshop, just before I went on, it was a very tight schedule. He surprised us all by bringing the governor of Connecticut up to the stage, and I was like, oh my God. I was thinking, well, that's going to eat into my time. So anyway, so he calls, and I find myself, strangely, there's something inside of me like compelling me to actually send him, and I'm futzing around on the phone trying to text it to him, and that's not going through, and I'm like a man on a mission. And so I finally email him the Living Well from Within channel and the playlist. And he gets on his email and we go through it together. And now he understands what I'm going through in sequence, what's unfolding in the channel. And he's like, I sense his awe and amazement of what this is. And then I finally get to talking about Yvette Miller, the conversation I had with Yvette Miller. And he stands in solidarity, with, Al is just amazing. He stands in solidarity with this particular cause as well, healing systemic racism. And I said, we spoke about needing, what our intention was to actually, we hope that, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden will see this video. And he says to me, Danny, well, I had Senator Chris Dodd in my office the other day. We were talking about his foundation on what he's creating around, supporting human rights. But Chris Dodd is one of Joe Biden's best friends. And Chris Dodd was on the selection committee to actually select Kamala Harris as vice president. And he said, I will send a message for you to Chris Dodd. And I was just blown away. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wrote probably the most important email of my life, which was a message that Al could pass on to Chris Dodd to Joe Biden. And I want to read you the beginning of that message. And to make it easy for Al, I wanted to kind of write it in his voice, and I've given him carte blanche to edit as he wishes. And I've said, and this is how I start the letter. This is how I started the letter. And so, Joe, I hope this gets to you. I really hope this gets to you. Dear Chris, I have an awe-inspiring story to share with you. My dear friend, Daniel Friedland, a physician who is the author of one of the first textbooks on evidence-based medicine, as well as a leader in the conscious capitalism movement, where I serve on the board, has just been diagnosed with grade 4 glioblastoma multiforme, the very same cancer that Joe Biden's son, Beau, died of. It's not lost on me how profound this is. So this would be Chris sending this, and I imagine Al would be sending this to Chris, who would be sending his version of this to Joe. That's what I'm imagining.
President-elect.
So, President-elect Joe Biden. Let me be very... President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, God bless you both. So, with Danny's life now shortened, he has come to an awakening that he wants to make every moment count, with whatever time he has remaining, to serve at the highest possible way in his work to facilitate conscious leadership and healing in the world. He is acutely mindful of this historic moment of need and the opportunity at hand with Joe and Kamala blessedly coming into power. He wants to serve them in the next phase of the battle to heal the soul of the nation. Danny also shared with me that he wants to personally embrace Joe to bring some additional healing to him for his loss of Beau. He feels that the work he's doing now to make meaning of his own brain cancer could in some way also be dedicated to Beau's memory. And then it goes on. But that's, it goes on. But that's, that was written, usually I ask Sue to review and edit my important emails before they go out. I didn't need to do that because that was written by the hand of God. We're in the field of miracles right now, just in terms of all these synchronicities. And then, while I was writing that email, I thought, look at this, what's happening over here. I'm about to tell you this part of the story. This is on my Super Smart Health website. This is the actual, and Alexander McCoben just flashed by. This is the Laz workshop that I was talking about, which I have on a loop. So it's up now for you when it was at that point in the loop when Dylan came to lie next to me. And I thought he was so-called disturbing me. And that led me into the most extraordinary conversation of my life that I've had with him. Because I actually put I stopped mid-sentence. I just kind of sensed, make every moment count. He was lying next to me. And I knew he's going to be attending this exchange deep dive that I'm leading on awakening conscious leadership. And he's just being, as you saw in one of the early videos, the magical moment with him There were two videos. There were two videos as it relates to Dill. There was the video on, I'm trying to think, it was, let me find it, here we go. It was this video here. This video here.
Just say what it's.
Day 13, connecting with Dill connecting with Alexander McCoburn to found the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism. Dill's founded, the amount of impact he's going to have in the lives of others is going to be just immense. But, that morning, he claimed the title. That morning, he claimed the title of founding chair of the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism. But then you go through this sequence. This is a script written by the hand of God. You could not. Sue's telling me to settle down.
No, I'm saying stay back because you're getting too close.
Okay.
So I can't capture.
Okay. Well, I'm just like, I'm on. Something is flowing through me. I'm just like busting out. Okay. Oh God, I've got to be contained. This is I just feel like I'm in the flow of all these miracles. So check this out. Like, I'm just so beyond awe and inspiration of the synchronicities that are unfolding in my life right now. So then I go for my biopsy result. I get the call late on the day. It's been a magical day. I go there. The next series in the list, I then get the diagnosis that I was most afraid of, that it was a grade 4 glioblastoma, and it is. And then we go into a grief response. Our family, the next series of videos goes into a grief response, and the next video in the series, we were in a grief response around the table. We were in the grief response around the table. And I think we share more about that grief response over here in this video, Dill, Zach, and Danny making meaning of this news together. We share about the grief response.
What day is that?
That's day 14. But the video in between that is Dill was pacing around. When I told him, he says, "No, Daddy, no, no, no." He went into such and he kept going like this. Oh, he was so upset, and we were trying to calm down, and he was pacing, and then he grabs his phone, He says, "I need to go shoot a video." That was the only way, and he needed to talk it through. So this video on Dill making profound sense of the news.
What day?
Day 13. He goes to the room and he starts out this video talking about how this pain was actually causing him to contemplate suicide. But then he miraculously, by the hand of God, who's writing the script, finds the metaphor, this beautiful metaphor of the movie. He tells the story of a movie. And actually, in telling the story, and he even says, this movie is being controlled. Dill hasn't had a very rich, deep spiritual life until this point. So the fact that he's even in this moment, he's going through it's written by the script, ironically, but he's pointing up to the box. God's in the box directing this movie. He's directing the script. And then he says, "You know what? This might be the worst point in the movie, but I don't know how this movie's going to end. I don't know how this movie's going to end. I think I'll stay around to see if there's a happy ending, or there's a happy ending." And in that moment, in Dill working it out for himself, I'm thinking about how in the morning he was actually entitled in the morning, he got the title. But by the evening, through my diagnosis and the grief response we had together as a family, he actually embodied the title. He embodied the title of what it means to be a conscious leader. He spoke it through, but I was thinking about how many other teenage kids who are sitting at the point of being ready to pull the trigger or overdose because they were at the point of suicide, now won't. How many lives did he save? Because he enrolled them into an optimism of that this movie could always get better. Don't check out of the movie now. How he has been a force for healing. So he claimed that. And then, by the way, I knew why the script had to be this way. I knew. That was when I had my spiritual awakening. I knew that the script demanded that I have a grade 4 glioblastoma, and I surrendered to it. I surrendered to the blessing of that. And the reason is that if I didn't get that diagnosis that night, our family wouldn't have had a deep grief response, and this, what unfolded then would not have unfolded to actually inspire you listening to this now. To inspire, we're in the field of miracles. We're in the field of miracles. And even Susie here with you, when we had that tender moment the other night. I asked Sue if she believes in God, and that wasn't a term that connected with her. I said, well, do you believe in something larger than yourself? And you said, yeah. I mean, what would you call that? And I said, I suppose the force. And I've been talking about the field. And they said, why don't we call this the force field? When we're together, why don't we call this the force field? And then she said, well, that has superpowers. That sounds like that has superpowers. And we're in the force field of miracles, blessed by the loving consciousness of God. So as I was actually, as this was all unfolding in the background, he comes in, and I'm able to convey, Dill comes, I'm able to convey, with all of this, pause and stop, and with all of that background, just profound, have the most important conversation with my son that I needed to have with him before, because he's going to be attending the deep dive. On awakening conscious leadership. And I didn't think he really got it, because it's a 3-day workshop, and we're going to set him up at Sue's computer. And I was a little bit nervous that he was going to be checking in, checking out. I wanted him to actually fully understand the importance of this. And so as I was going through, telling him the story, where I'm telling him the story. And we land on the Super Smart Health webpage where, it's the part of the story where I'm writing a letter to Alan Lazowski, and then I go into Super Smart, and then there it is, and I was saying, I had done this workshop, and there you see Alan Lazowski, Alexander McCoban. He's where I'm doing my exchange approach version of conscious leadership workshop. That's all happening, and we're now coming into an exchange approach, awakening conscious leadership deep dive, in which he's going to be attending. And then we go, I take him onto the Conscious Capitalism website, and we're looking about conscious capitalism, and then look at this. Here's Alan Lazowski, who happens to be over here for an event. He happens to be on the home page just because he's doing an event in the sequence of this time. So I'm telling him all of this, and then he understands the significance, because for him to be successful in really making this teen chapter work, he needs to understand deeply the principles of conscious leadership. He needs to understand those principles very deeply. And so this is part of the awakening. But he also needs to understand the methodology of exchange, because to create a choreography, and this chapter is going to be founded on Zoom. It's going to be on Zoom. There's a choreography that enlivens it and allows you to actually, the exchange approach is an approach that unlocks individual and collective wisdom at scale to drive, to facilitate conversations that create exponential outcomes and flourishing in the world. So when we're talking about shining a coalition, I really want to, the exchange approach is, the exchange community is a community led by John Berghoff that I am so deeply blessed to partner with, because I'm entrusting this community for continuing my legacy of my work, my awakening conscious leadership work, whenever the time comes for me to transition. This will be the community that will lead my work, not only because of the leadership of John and just the incredible, it's just the incredible community, the loving community that is growing. It's growing. It's shaping. It's already have worked with some of the biggest companies. Facebook, BMW. So just some of the biggest companies have been using their approach to elevate themselves and create flourishing in the world. But this is the community that I trust more deeply with this work than. And even to the point that if I, in this 3-day workshop, if I have let's say I have a stroke or I get a word block, they can actually run this program without me, because I also have my blessed brother Dan Diamond in the community. Dan Diamond is a dear soul brother whose mission is, Dan Diamond is extraordinary. He ran the disaster triage unit for Hurricane Katrina. And he does this work in helping people thrive under pressure. He knows the world of pressure and disaster. And he's come to a very simple attitude. He's deeply actually religious. He's deeply religious. So he's a person of deep faith, and he's really deeply embedded in the field. So Dan, I love you, brother. I love you. I love you so much. But he's got a simplicity of this work, and it all comes down to understanding the power of unstoppable love, which is the spiritual awakening. My experience of the field is a field of unstoppable love. That's part of my heart awakening. Part of my heart awakening is unstoppable love. So if I literally go down during this program, he knows how to run all of the inside parts of the program, all the so-called presentation parts of the program, because we've been doing our work together. We're partners in our programs with the American Association of Physician Leadership. We run the physician well-being programs, the physician well-being and resiliency programs for the American Association of Physician Leadership. And we do this in partnership. So he knows my work. He knows my work well. So if I go down, we're in good hands, because Dan can do the inside parts, and and John with Adair Cates, who's just another extraordinary facilitator, they will run the choreographies that unlock the collective. So I want him to not only see this, I want him to actually experience the choreography that will actually make the teen. So he won't only have, an appreciation of what conscious leadership is, and what he's awakening into his own conscious leadership in his own just what you saw in his own way. But he'll have a framework around that, but he'll also have this framework of the choreography, the framework of the approach. And
wait, are you talking about Dylan now?
Yeah, I'm talking about Dylan.
Okay.
I'm talking about Dylan. He will have the template for running these incredibly rich teen chapters. And then there's another person in the community that I'm excited for, actually, for Dylan to meet. We call him Brother James. Brother James is the most experienced facilitator in our community, which is several hundred, people large now. He's the most experienced facilitator in the community with actually facilitating teen experiences. And he's a musician, and his music is glorious. It sings to the soul. And so when Dill says, I want this to be entertaining, I want this to be alive, Brother James has got your back. And Brother James, I love you too. And Brother James this year lost his dad, and we did an inner circle journey, and Brother James, your dad is with us now, because we dedicated our inner circle journey as we were ramping up. We did a preview for the inner circle on this awakening conscious leadership journey that's allowed us to get to this point. There's an inner circle, so we've had a 3-month, and Brother James's dad died during that, and we learned about Brother James's dad, and he was, a peaceful warrior in the spirit of conscious leadership. And so we dedicated that part of the journey to him, and Brother James is the embodiment of his dad. The embodiment of his dad, and so that lineage comes through from the field, from his dad, from his dad, into Brother James, and Brother James is going to help Dylan with founding the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism. How glorious is that? Oh my God, I feel so blessed. I just feel so, I can't wait to get up in the morning. I've had like 3 or 4, it's not even 9 o'clock here or 8 o'clock, and I've already had 10, I've already had another 5 synchronicities, that that have been amazing as well. That's just, what I'm sharing is just one of I'm in the field of miracles. Susie? I'm in the force field. We're in the force field together. And Sue's, I just want to kind of end with saying, Sue's behind the camera. Sue's behind the camera, but I want you all to know that none of this would work without Sue holding the foundation for this. Sue, what I most appreciate about you is, and what I shared this earlier on, is your purpose in your life is to create a rich experience for your boys. And as I said earlier, I'm lucky to be actually included in in your list of boys. But through this experience, I have never, that heart awakening from God, that heart awakening that has broken my heart open, for you to be by my side, where we can actually, I am now enjoying a depth of love for you that I have never fully experienced. I so love and appreciate you. And then to know that we've come together, force and field, to create a force field of miracles in however the script unfolds. We're actually in the movie. We're in Dill's movie now. And we will let the movie unfold. And as Dill says, we hope this is going to be 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Lots of love. Lots of love to you all.